Just letting you know I'm back. The words die as his gaze catches on my bare shoulders, which is all I'm pretty sure he can see given the height of this tub. Well, my shoulders and my very wet, very unbound hair. Damn. Just damn. I said you should have stayed and had a bath in our room. Lots of space in here. You didn't need to go borrow Riddick's. I tapped the copper pipe at the foot of the tub with my toe. They really do have some pretty fabulous plumbing. Yeah. His eyes darken and his grip on the door handle whitens. I figured it was polite to give you time to soak your muscles to help recover after all that riding. Polite? How very kind of you. I gather all my hair in my hand and pull it over my left shoulder so it's ready to wring out. Then hit the lever with my foot to start draining the tub, trying to focus anywhere but on him and that incredible body he insists on walking around in. And do you feel recovered? His voice lowers. A little exposed after being interrogated about my intelligence and my love life, but otherwise fine. Reaching to the right, I grab the soft white towel I left on the little bench as the water empties with a gurgle, then turn my back to Zayden and stand, quickly wrapping the towel around me. You're fine, he repeats. Not dizzy, not sore, not tired? Because we just flew all last night. I'm not sure I want to go climb the gauntlet or anything. I lean left, wringing my hair out over the tub. But yes, I'm feeling as good as it gets. Clean, fed, and ready to curl up with the man I love. Good, he says against my ear, and I gasp with surprise as he grabs hold of my waist and turns me to face him. Because I'm done being polite. His mouth crashes into mine. Confiscated correspondence of Fen Ryerson to unknown intended recipient. The most useless word in the language of aristocracy has always been, and will forever be, love. Marriage is a necessary evil to secure the line. Nothing more. Save love for your children. Chapter 25. I abandon my towel and my common sense, throwing my arms around his neck and pouring my whole heart into the kiss. Who cares if we're in a house full of servants and a viscount I don't trust? If Zayden has set sexual limits between us the last 6 weeks, he's kissing me like I'm the only air he can breathe, and that's all that matters, all that I can allow to matter. My wet feet slip on the tile, and then there's nothing beneath them as I'm lifted to his chest. The sensation of my bare breasts against his damp skin makes me gasp around his tongue. He groans, holding me with one hand under my ass as I wrap my legs around his waist. I nudge his towel straight to the floor before locking my ankles, leaving us skin to skin as he kisses me senseless, robbing me of logic and replacing it with pure want. Our mouths collide again and again without finesse or seduction. There's no flirtation or coy games here. No, it's all hunger and blatant, naked demand. It's fucking perfect, unrestrained, and absolutely greedy. The room moves, or maybe that's us. Either way, the lighting changes, and I find myself perched on the edge of the small breakfast table a few feet from the bedroom window. I rip my mouth from his to scan our surroundings, but Zayden cups my chin and pulls me right back. No one can see at this angle. I checked, he promises, then goes right back to kissing me, wiping every protest out of my head with the indulgent stroke of his tongue. Wait, he checked. He's thought about this. Oh gods, this might actually happen. Heat and need rush through me, bringing every nerve to blaring life. It doesn't feel like it's only been 6 weeks since I've had all of him above me, below me, within me. It seems like it's been years.
Ooh, getting spicy.
He winds my wet hair around his hand, then tugs my head backward gently, breaking the kiss and setting his lips to my throat. Every touch of his lips sends a jolt of yes straight down my spine, and they quickly gather into an aching knot of please right between my thighs. My nails rake into his hair, and I arch for more, whimpering softly when he delivers, toying with me expertly. He uses his firm lips, soft tongue, and rough stubble to their every advantage, until I'm pretty sure he could get me off by just kissing my neck. I love your skin, he says, working his way down to my collarbone. You're so damn soft.
Y'all, it's probably about to get spicy, so if you were not doing it, I would go.
His warm skin that I can reach. I want to lay him down on that bed and lick every single line that he's kept hidden away from me for the last 6 weeks. But there's no way I'm going to chance him stopping this for a change of position. He abandons my hair, then brings both hands to cut my breasts. I suck in a swift breath when he lowers his mouth to one peak, then uses his tongue and teeth to worship it. Holy shit, does that feel good? My body is positively starved for his touch, and it's all I can do to stifle a flat-out moan when he moves to the other. Shh, he whispers with a playful smile. Wouldn't want anyone to hear. It's the smile that does me in, a fear that borders on frenzy breaking through the haze of pleasure he's building. You can't tease me. I shake my head.
Yes,
his hands shift to my hips, and he stands to his full height, his brow creasing as confusion fills those gorgeous eyes looking down at me. I mean, you can, I immediately blurt, my hands falling to the table. It's just that I want you, need you, and I'm trying really hard to respect the whole no-sex aspect of the rules we laid down. And if you tease me, he fucking smirks, and I debate going back to the throwing daggers at his head stage of our relationship. There's no magic here. Yes, I know. I fold my arms over my breasts and move to close my thighs, but he's standing between them. There's no magic here, he says again, lowering his head, ghosting his lips over mine. I can fuck you as many times as we want, as many times as you can take, and I can't lose control. Oh, my whole body draws tighter than a bowstring, and my breath catches. Oh. He runs his thumbs up the insides of my thighs and locks his eyes on mine. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in?
Yes.
I run my tongue over my lower lip, and his hands flex.
God.
Only if you are. I feel like I swallow. I just don't want to push you for something you don't feel comfortable doing.
Shut up, Violet. Just let him fuck you.
It around the length of his hard cock. Does that feel like I'm not comfortable? I squeeze my hand on reflex, and he moans low in his throat, his eyes sliding shut. My core clenches at just how hot, how thick, how perfect he is. Fuck, Violet. You do that again, and this will be over in minutes. There's an edge of desperation in his eyes when they open, and he hisses through his teeth as he guides my hand away from his body. Me holding back from you has been purely for your sake, not mine. Trust me. I want you from the second I wake up until the moment I fall asleep. I dream about you. My lips part, and warmth spreads throughout my chest. I love you. I love you. He cups my knees. And here, I don't have my fucking powers. Don't get me wrong. There's part of that I am very all right with. My stomach drops. The venom part. But no shadows. He continues. No intention, no lesser magics. I can't even create a sound shield to keep everyone in this house from hearing what you sound like when you come. And that feels... His jaw flexes. I know, I whisper, skimming the back of my hand along his stubble. Not having that constant stream of power buzzing beneath my skin makes me feel less than whole. And I can't talk to Sigale, he adds. I can't even sense you, which is killing me, but in return for all that shit? His scarred brow rises. I get to do my favorite thing in the world, which happens to be fucking you. Now, I have about 6 weeks to make up for, and love, we're wasting time. I brace my hands beside me and smile when his eyes darken at the sight of my body. Well, if you insist. A slow smile curves his mouth and he pushes my knees farther apart. I insist. My laugh abruptly transforms to a moan when he sinks to his knees and sets his mouth on me. Oh, fuck. He doesn't tease or toy. No, he immediately swirls his tongue around my clit and sinks 2 fingers inside me. Damn, I missed your taste. Satan! Pleasure jolts through my system like power buzzing in my veins and landing low in my stomach. I slam my hand over my mouth to catch my next moan as he starts to move those exceptionally talented fingers, his tongue working in rhythm to play my body like an instrument created just for him. Tension gathers and coils, and it's all I can do to stay upright to keep balanced with one hand and stifle my moans with the other. I waver, my body swaying, and Zayden reaches for my mouth. I pull his hand to my lips and press a hard kiss to his palm as my hips begin to rock against his face, and other hand, chasing the high I can feel approaching with every thrust of his fingers, every flick of his tongue. But I want more. I want him inside me, his arms around me, his voice in my head. We can have all but the last, and it's more than enough. It's good. So fucking good. My breath catches and my thighs stiffen. He curls his fingers and lashes his tongue against my clit, and I unravel. My climax hits hard and fast, and I shout against his palm as white-hot pleasure pulls me over the edge in bright waves that hit again and again, robbing me of breath as they race through me. He coaxes the aftershocks from me relentlessly, working my body until the last of them shudder through. I have no words for the havoc that mouth can wreak. Get up here. I kiss his wrist, and he stands, dragging his thumb along his lower lip. My temperature rises another degree, and my breath hitches as my gaze rakes over him. Mine. It's the only word that comes to mind as I devour the sight of him. Keep looking at me like that, he warns, prowling toward me. He slides his hands beneath my thighs and lifts me farther back on the table. And you what? I lie down, bringing my heels to the surface as he climbs onto me, bracing his weight on his palms. Good point. He lowers his mouth to mine, and his arms tremble slightly. I need you. I'm right here. I lift my knees to bracket his hips and reach between our bodies to bring the head of his cock to my entrance. We both inhale at the contact, and his eyes flare. Are you sure? You know what I am, he says slowly, and a flicker of something that looks like fear crosses his face.
And she still loves you, Zayden.
I cradle his cheeks with my hands. Now, Zayden, you have 6 weeks to make up for, remember? He nods, keeping his gaze locked with mine, then shifts a hand to my hip and drives into me in one long thrust, taking me inch by inch by inch until he's all I can feel. The pressure, the stretch, the feel of him is so perfect that my foolish eyes prickle because I've missed this connection so damn much. Are you all right? His eyes widen and his hips jerk back. I'm fine. I wrap my legs around him. I just miss this. Me too. He drops his forehead to mine and rolls his hips, sinking into me. We both moan. I miss being inside your head. He withdraws, then snaps forward again, and I see stars. Pleasure shoots through my very bones as he begins that deep, slow rhythm I can never get enough of. I love having every part of you when we're like this. Same. I wind my arms around his neck and hold on, arching to meet every delectable thrust as sweat quickly slicks our bodies. I love when you talk to me. My fingers slide over his lips, even when your mouth is otherwise occupied. He grins, but it slips when I swivel my hips, and he groans. Fuck, you feel so damned good. I'm never giving you up. You know that, right? You had your chance to run. You should have run, Vi. He punctuates each claim with a harder, deeper thrust that has me straining for breath, for reasonable thought that goes beyond more, and yes, as wood creaks beneath us. I pull his mouth down to mine and breathe through the keening pleasure that's building within me again, deeper and hotter than before. I'm never running. It's you and me, no matter what. You and me, he repeats, sweat beading on his brow as his hips drive me into the table and it creaks, starting to rock with us. Just don't stop. I'm pretty sure stopping might kill me. I hold tight with my arms, my legs, clinging to him with everything I have as he lowers his weight to his forearm, cushions the back of my head with his hand, and drives into me, taking me higher and higher.
Oh, shit. Sorry, y'all.
It snaps a second before gravity shifts, and my stomach hollows as we fall. My skin only touches his on impact. He has me held against his chest with one arm.
Okay, so I don't need to do that.
While his other and his knees took the brunt of our mishap. Are you all right? I ask, my face buried in his neck. I'm fine. We fell 3 feet, not 30. He laughs, rolling us off the destroyed table and onto the hardwood floor, careful not to crush my ankles. Then he picks up right where he left off, except this time I'm close enough to the bed rail to push back against him for leverage. Hold on. He reaches over my head, retrieves a pillow, then slides it under my hips. The next thrust hits such a sweet spot that I can taste it. He muffles my cry with his mouth as I arch up for him again and again, savoring every breath through his gritted teeth, every strained line of his incredible body, every drugging kiss as the pleasure spins tighter and tighter between us. And God's help me, I hold on as long as humanly possible. I don't want it to end, don't want to go back to the endless wanting. A whimper escapes my lips as I fight the pressure, the oncoming wave I know I can't avoid, not when every roll of his hips drives me toward it. You have to let go for me, love. Zayden nips my lower lip. I'm not, I gasp, my body twisting beneath his. Fuck, it feels too damn good. You are. His hand drifts down to my stomach. I don't need to be in your head to know why you're fighting it. This isn't the only time, Vi. We have all night. Come for me.
Yes.
All night sounds better than any heaven I know of. I sink my fingers into his hair as he strokes my hypersensitive clit with the precise pressure he knows I like. And I shatter. I fly apart at the seams as the orgasm surges through me in arching pulses. He swallows my moans with a kiss as the waves break again and again, and then he puts me back together with soft strokes of his hands as I come back down. So beautiful, he whispers against my mouth, and only when I fall against the floor, a trembling, happily content mess, does he kiss me like he's searching for his own soul and finds his own completion with a few final hard thrusts and a low groan. I hold him tight as he rolls us to the side, his back to the destruction, and he cradles my head on his biceps. I trace the line of the scar across his brow as my heartbeat settles and commit the contours of his face to memory again, while he watches me with a glazed, soft expression. There's too much of us missing here for this to truly be us, but it's a version that I want to cling to.
Oh, I totally
where
forgot
he
I can
isn't
talk.
plagued by the threat of turning, where he isn't telling me that I have to learn how to kill him. We could
We are going
just
to pause after
stay
chapter
here,
25, though.
I whisper. His brow twitches, and he pushes my hair back from my face. Here, as in this room? Here, as in Deverelli. I run my fingers along his jaw. I can take Takaris's offer, if Ternan and Darna agree. I'm sure they would if it means you stop all progression until I can find a cure. You and Sigale could stay here while I do the research. He slides his thumb over my lips. She's in pain. I blink. How could I have missed that? Guilt weighs down my shoulders. All the dragons are, I think. Not that they'll admit it. But I don't think they can survive, or at least thrive, the way they do at home, away from magic. I could never cause Sigale pain. He skims his calloused hand down the side of my neck and over my ribs to settle on the slope of my waist. And I could never let you abandon everyone you love. A boulder lodges in the middle of my throat. Someone knocks. Hey, Riddick says through the door. My face flushes and I cover my mouth with my hand. We're all good, Xaden calls out with a wicked grin, stroking my hip. Yeah, that's great, Riddick says. No, I'm not. His voice muffles. Look, we have a problem here, Kat snaps. Shouting it through the door isn't going to help, Dane says. Get away from there, Mira lectures, and both Xaden and I scramble to our feet. Violet, answer the door. How many people are crowded into that hallway? Xaden's faster to the bathroom than I am, and he throws my towel through the doorway, making sure I catch it before striding out with his own wrapped around his hips. You can't answer the door like that, I hiss at him, covering myself and bemoaning how long it will take to get my clothes on. Neither can you. And I'm sure as fuck not offering the sight of you in a towel up to Atos after hearing that your father basically planned your wedding to the asshole, Xaden retorts just as quietly, his hand on the doorknob. I recognize defeat and step toward the wall out of sight as Xaden opens the door. To what do we owe the honor of a visit from every single one of you? He asks. I thought 2 of you were flying the southern route to confirm there aren't any Irids hiding out here. Silence answers. I lean left, just enough to see Xaden glance over his shoulder. Yes, the table is broken. Now what do you need? You two totally broke it, didn't you? Riddick asks on the edge of laughter.
Oh, Riddick.
Like that armoire no one was supposed to notice getting hauled out of her room during first year. The what? Mira's voice rises, and I lean against the wall, letting my head fall back in mortification. What could be so fucking important that you're trying to ruin my one evening? Xaden snaps. A messenger came, Dane says. King Cortland has decided to keep Halden. My stomach pitches. Too fucking bad for Halden. Xaden shrugs. Xaden! I lift my brows at him and his mouth tightens. We're flying out as planned, but Takaris needs you, Dane continues. You're the only aristocrat they'll let in. You have to go, I whisper. Xaden looks my way, and too many emotions to count cross his beautiful face. Want, desperation, pleading, frustration, anger, resignation. Fuck, fine. He slams the door in their faces. We have to go. An excerpt from a...
All right, that's chapter 25. I don't know if anybody else is in here. It's just me hanging out. I don't know. Anybody in here? Let me know in the chat. Anybody? Somebody? Anybody? back a little bit. Here. Did I mess this up last night when I was tired? Oh, God. Doinked it up. I guess we are going to put the campsite not there. You know what we can do then is we'll move it over here. So I'll eat some fruit. Any fruit to eat? I do. Eat. Nom, 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 nom. Nom, nom, nom. Yum, 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 yum. And yum, 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 yum. Right. So we will move this tree. What we'll do is we'll create a enclave. And over here, that can be like, not that. Okay, so yeah, what we'll do is put the doggo? You coming to see me, Cooey? Hi, honey. What's up, Doo-Doo? My dog's here. What you doing? Huh? Is Mom upstairs yelling about stuff? Hi, honey girl. You need to go outside? This is an outside request. I will be right back. Right. Outside? You need to go outside? Okay, come on. Let's take you outside. Come on. After you? You want to go outside? You're trying to hang out in the office with me. You want to come hang out? Do you go outside? Or are you hanging out? Right. My dog wants to hang out. So I'm gonna give her a little nicky nick to come hang out. Huh, Doo-Doo? Huh? You just want to hang out? You good girl? Put this out of the way for you. Hey, honey. You wanna come lay down? Here you go. Okay. Wanna lay down? It's right there for you. Okay. You see old lady dog? Come on, Doo-Doo. Lay down. It's okay. Good girl. Yeah. Just lay down. Lay down in your bed. You silly little dog. Good girl. Just lay down. Just lay down. Okay. Oh, God. I don't need a story for this. I would like to just with a reaction. Good girl, Cooey. Oh, good job. You silly. What? Is this a chair? This is my chair. Yeah. Hi. All right. Dog settled in. Huh. You're on the live stream. Yes, you are. You're on the live stream, my sweetie girl. And we'll throw
A Study in the Anatomy of the Enemy by Captain Dominic Prischel. In the first 24 hours of removal from source magic, the subject, an ASIM, presented as even-tempered. But withdrawal quickly revealed the subject's true nature, requiring the subject's immediate transfer to stage 2 of the study. Her results can be found with group 33B under the category Death by Fire, and subsequently Group 46C under the category Death by Poison. Chapter 26.
Killing dragons?
Deverelli is beautiful by
God.
sunset. Or at least it would be if I could concentrate on taking the time to really appreciate the Isle. Instead, I'm focused on exactly how close Tern thinks he can fly to the treetops without actually crashing into one as we race along the hillside ahead of Sigale. To Endarna's disdain, Tern ordered her to remain behind for her own safety. You're sure we're out of range of the crossbolts? I ask, hunkered down against the pommels of my saddle, my pack weighing me down, as if my slight stature could possibly affect his aerodynamics. They are made not to rotate this way, but to defend the shoreline. They woefully underestimate our intelligence. Still, the existence of the crossbolts means this isle wants to do us harm. And it possibly already is. Are you in pain? Is Andarna? I ask as I spot 4 enormous gray pillars ahead, supporting the remnants of an aqueduct as they curve around the hillside, marking the path to their palace. What would make you ask that? His gruff tone answers for him as he crosses over an open space that looks to be in the arts district, from what I remember reading. And a chorus of shouts sounds, then vanishes as we pass by. Sorry, but if you abduct our royalty, we scare the shit out of you with our dragons. Seems pretty fair to me. Why didn't you tell me? Guilt for even suggesting to Xaden that we stay, for not realizing it, settles on my shoulders. You live in pain. Do you feel as though you need to alert me every time your knee twinges or your joints slip? Even his wing beats change, becoming more staccato. There have been several moments, even here, when your heartbeat has elevated and you have approached unconsciousness, yet you have not made special note. I lean with him as he banks left, following the centuries-old aqueduct. That's just everyday life for me. This isn't normal for you. Andarna shows no sign of trouble. I am inconvenienced, annoyed, and cut off from my source of power, strength, and my mate's thoughts. But I am still Ternanak, son of Muit Koidim and Fia Clan Fuel, descended from... All right, yes, I get it. You are superior in all ways. I interrupt him before he can get through his whole pompous lineage, like I don't have it memorized by now. We level out, following the topography, and I take in as much of the layout as I can before we're too far overhead. Tern's size is a distinct advantage in battle, but it's a pain in the ass when I'm trying to see what's below me. The palace is unlike anything I've ever witnessed. Not only is the 4-story structure carved into the hillside, but so is a 100-yard meadow ahead of it. It's truly spectacular, a feat of engineering when it was accomplished 1,000 years ago, and testament to their traditions that it's still their seat of power and hasn't faded to ruin like so many of the ancient castles of kingdoms past on the continent. Soft blue light glows in orbs down a central path of the clearing, lighting our way as the sun sinks behind the hills and we descend toward the muted green grass. The space is wide enough to support the width of 2 dragons with fully extended wings, but probably 4, if they held them retracted. Do you know where you're going? Tern asks as we approach, his wings flaring to slow our descent. The majority of their formal spaces are outside, according to what I've read, as are the king's chambers, just beyond the first row of trees. So, in theory, yes. I position my body for landing as he flies over a platoon of panicked guards bearing what appear to be silver-tipped spears, then sets us down to the left of the row of incandescent blue orbs. Not that they're going to let me in. Sigale and Xaden land to the right. Shouting ensues as I unbuckle my belt and move for Tern's shoulder. No changes to the plan? I ask, steeling my nerves for what's bound to be a contentious confrontation. I want my fucking power back. I want it now. None. I will be with you all the way, Silver One. His promise reassures me as I dismount, the weight of the pack jarring my spine on impact. I shake it off, then walk towards Xaden, who's already waiting for me at the center of the path between the rows of blue orbs. His swords are strapped to his back, but his daggers are within easy reach, and he carries the same oversized pack he's hauled with us from Navarre, which he'd told me was for just in case. I guess an Isle Kingdom kidnapping your prince qualifies as just in case. I can't help but do a double take at one of the orbs as I walk by, stepping into the path. The blue glow isn't from a single light source, but dozens of large bioluminescent insects with translucent wings, all feeding from... A smile breaks across my face. They're Falerinia moths. What? Zayden's boots crunch on the rocky path as he walks my way. Falerinia moths. I touch the cool glass orb. We don't have them on the continent, just their sister species. They light up when they feed from honeycomb. I read about them in Sir Zimley's Guide to Deverelli Fauna, but I had no idea they harnessed them for light. It's brilliant. Poisonous, but brilliant. Of course you did, Zayden counters. But we should probably concentrate on the dozen pissed-off guards headed our way. Fair point. I throw my braid over my shoulder, cursing that I hadn't had time to put it up as usual, and turn to face the approaching horde of angry white-clad Deverelli. I'm guessing we have less than 10 seconds, and those spear tips look mighty unfriendly. My hands dangle near the sheaths along my sides, but Zayden stands with his feet braced apart, his arms folded across his chest as if he isn't that concerned. But his eyes sweep across the group methodically, no doubt putting them all into threat categories. I focus on the fox-like woman on the right who keeps flaring her nose and stepping off the path like I won't notice, and her male counterpart on the left doing his best to fade into the shadows, not realizing he's in the presence of a master. Look, more blades, Zayden says, and here I thought you were a weaponless society. The one in the center with the blue sash steps forward and starts shouting. I can only pick out a few words, two of which are stop and kill. We could really use Dane right about now, I whisper. I could live the rest of my life without ever hearing you say that again, Zayden replies. We could really use the bond, too. Do any of you happen to speak the common tongue? I ask, when the serrated silver blades of their raised spears are about 5 feet from our chests. They pause, and I shoot a warning look at the nose flarer on my right. You are forbidden to enter the palace of King Cortland IV, Blue Sash declares, jabbing his blade in our direction, but not close enough to merit a reaction. Ruler of Deverelli, master of the trade, keeper of the troths, justice of the tribunal, and heir of the antiquities. By the time he finishes, it's hard to keep my brows level. Sounds humble, Zayden says. Can't wait to meet him. You won't be. Blue Sash steps forward, blade raised. My hands flex near my sheaths as the woman on my right swings her blade back and forth between me and Tairn's slow but steady approach. His head is low, almost even with the ground, and his wings are tucked in tight for protection. If I wasn't his, I'd probably be shitting my pants. We will, Zayden counters with a bored sigh. And I'm trying really hard to be diplomatic since that's the role I've been handed, but let me put this in terms you'll understand. Your king kidnapped our asshole of a prince, and there's a large part of me that wouldn't mind him staying here and annoying the shit out of you for the rest of his miserable life, but that would make things difficult back home for someone I have complicated loyalty toward. So I'm going to need the prick back. Auric. Blue Sash's brow puckers, but his blade doesn't lower. Now, Zayden orders, I have much more important things to see to this evening. Flare Nose to my right swings her blade fully at Tairn and pulls back her arm, preparing to thrust with a full-on battle cry. I draw my blade the same second Tairn drops his jaw and roars, the sound shattering every glass orb within a dozen feet of us and leaving my ears ringing. Was that really necessary? My right ear won't work for a month. No, but I found it amusing. The guard drops her spear and stands there, shaking like a leaf for several seconds before she slowly turns around to face us. Her brown eyes wider than should be physically possible, her bronzed skin suddenly rather wan. I tilt my head at her. They don't like it when you do that. Trembling, she drags her gaze to mine, then collapses to sit on the ground. There's a definite quiver in Blue Sash's arms, but I give him credit for still holding his blade. You may not enter. I'm Zayden Ryerson, the Duke of Tyrandor. Zayden inclines his head. He's probably expecting me. Blue Sash blinks, then looks in my direction. And you are? Well, shit. My mouth opens. My consort, Zayden replies casually. Violet Sorengale. What the actual fuck? My jaw snaps shut so hard my teeth click. I want our bond back, and I want it back right now. He can't just announce things like that without at least a discussion. Are congratulations or commiserations in order? Taryn lifts his head. Shut up. I sheathe my dagger to keep from chucking it at the man I love. In that case, Blue Sash raises his spear fully upright, and the others follow his lead.
That's so annoying.
If you'll divest of your weaponry here, we'll escort you to the table. That's not happening. I shake my head. This place took my lightning and my bond. Malik himself would have to pluck my daggers from my sheaths before I give them up. What she said, Zayden agrees. Blue Sash blusters. We do not believe in weaponry. Unless you're... you, I say slowly. Have you seen the size of their teeth? I gesture toward Taryn and Sigale. Then there's the fire. Our blades are the least of your worries. Taryn huffs a blast of steam scented with sulfur, and Blue Sash lifts his chin, ordering the others to stay where they are, then leads Zayden and me down the path. Sigale and Taryn follow alongside us until we reach the first barricade of the clearing, 2 thick rows of palm trees marking the formal entrance to the outdoor palace. Your creatures remain here, Blue Sash demands. We'll pass that request along, Zayden replies. We can see right over these, Taryn notes. Remember, diplomacy is plan A. I reach for Zayden's hand and move closer to him as we walk on the orb-lit path, passing what looks to be an open-air receiving room on the left with various seating arrangements, and a music room on the right with instruments waiting for their musicians. No walls, Zayden notes. No ceilings? What do they do when it rains? Awnings. I point to the long wooden rails that run the length of the room, ready to shelter its occupants with fabric. And consort? I whisper. We aren't married. He fucking smirks. I've noticed, but girlfriend is missing that permanent tone. If it makes you more comfortable, consort is used pretty loosely in Navarian aristocratic circles. Pretty sure the Duke of Kaldir has had 4 different consorts in as many years. The designation just gets you the invitation into this place, plus gives you the protection and privileges of my title. I don't need the protection and privileges. I shake my head as we pass another row of palms. Ouch. He lifts his hand to his chest. Never thought you'd reject me. I roll my eyes. It is not the time for this. Jokes have to wait. When would be? The next look he gives me is 100% serious. My feet nearly stumble along with my heartbeat. Just the idea of really having forever with him makes my chest ache with a longing that doesn't belong on a possible battlefield. When we're not risking death, we're always risking death. He strokes his thumb over mine. True, I admit, as we walk onto a flagstone floor, entering the palace's dining hall. The room is laid out in 2 rows of 8 circular tables, each seating 10 finely dressed Deverelli on backless chairs, all outfitted in a riot of pastel colors and lightweight tunics and gowns. The table linens are embroidered, the place settings extravagant with golden cups and crystal chalices, and jewels glitter in the soft blue light that emanates from the center of every table, and the posted orbs that run the length of the room, illuminating the rows of guards and their blades. At the end of the open-air chamber, there's a raised dais with a U-shaped table for 5. A man I can only assume is the king of Deverelli sits at its center, twirling a bejeweled dagger in his hands and staring at Halden on the right end of the table, like he hasn't decided if he's going to use that dagger on him or not. There's no sign of Captain Windshire, but Takaris looks like he'd rather be anywhere than between Cortland and Halden. Fuck, Zayden mutters. He's younger than I thought, I say about the king, by about 4 decades or so. Cortland only looks to be a few years older than Zayden and me. He's handsome, with deep golden brown skin stretched over high cheekbones, and a strong jaw, cunning brown eyes, and shoulder-length black hair. But the speed with which he locates Zayden and me and quickly appraises us leaves me a little queasy. Zayden's hand tightens around mine, and he leans down to brush his lips against my ear. The shadows here are not mine. I know your skill with a dagger. I'm not discounting your ability to protect yourself. But for the good of my sanity, while I try to get Halden out of whatever mess he's created, will you please stay by my side? I nod. How can I not? He's not asking me to hide behind him, nor did he leave me with Taryn to keep me safe. He's just asking me to stay close. And honestly, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. He squeezes my hand once, then lets go, freeing us both in case we need to fight, and we move forward as Blue Sash beckons, clearly exasperated with the time we're taking. King Cortland waves off the couple on the left as we approach, listening to whatever Takaris whispers in his ear, and servants scurry to replace the plates and cups as the couple departs. They don't shake hands, I tell Xaden quietly as we walk down the aisle. They don't mince or waste words. They speak in double meanings only when it's convenient to them. They value status, wealth, knowledge, and secrets. Anything that can be traded. If you break your word once, you're never trusted again. Say what I mean. Don't lie. Act like a rich entitled dick. Got it. He nods. Rage shines in Halden's gaze as it meets mine when we reach the last set of tables, and his fist closes around his gold fork. I send him a silent, subtle plea to keep his shit together, and he places the fork on the table and clenches his jaw. The Duke of Tirindor, Blue Sash announces loudly, gesturing to the 4 steps that lead up the dais on the left. And his consort, Violet Sorensail. Close enough. Xaden walks up the steps first, his gaze sweeping the floor, the chairs, the table, and even the place settings before he reaches back with a hand. It's unnecessary but sweet, so I take it and walk up after him. It's Soren Gale, he corrects Blue Sash. I take the seat on the end, and Xaden takes the one closest to Cortland's right. What did you do? I ask Halden across the divide. Straight to the point, Cortland says, rolling the jeweled dagger. I enjoy this. What makes you think I did anything? Halden challenges, leaning over his plate. Previous history? Servants step up behind the other 3 occupants and remove the dishes. I'm sorry to say that you missed the dinner portion of this evening, Cortland announces. But dessert will soon arrive.
Oh.
What did you do, Halden? Xaden repeats for me. Exactly what I was sent here for. Color flushes Halden's cheeks, and he slams his palms down on the table. I re-established diplomatic connections with Deverelli and asked for their permission to use Takaris' manor to launch a search mission with a riot of dragons, in return for the artifact he requested, and when that was not enough, I offered what was not yours to give. Cortland lunges across Takaris and plunges the dagger into Halden's hand. Holy fucking shit. My stomach churns. Your Majesty, Takaris balks, the blood draining from his face. I drop my hand to Xaden's knee and squeeze to keep from screaming the way Halden does as he stares down in shock. Xaden tenses but wears a mask of bored indifference like a professional. Stop wailing like a child. Cortland sits back in his chair, then takes a drink of red wine from his crystal goblet. Halden sucks in breath after breath, staring at his hand, but the screaming ceases. Pull it out. Wrap your hand. Get it stitched by a healer, and you'll be fine in a fortnight. Cortland lectures. The cut is between your bones in the fleshy part. No tendons. My aim is very good. He lifts his goblet at Halden. You're lucky I respect Takaris, because what you've done is unforgivable. The dagger was mine to give, Halden bites out, staring at the jeweled blade. It looks to be antique, with a silver handle and emeralds the size of my fingernails adorning the hilt. No, it wasn't. Cortland shakes his head. It's mine, Xaden says, and it takes everything I have to keep my features schooled. Or rather, it should have been. It's the blade of Eratia, appropriated for the royal vault by Reginald during the unification. Yes! Cortland's goblet swings Xaden's way as 3 servants climb the steps around us, 1 on each side. Fascinating how he chose this particular gift, knowing it might provoke your emotions. Normally, when it comes to such heirlooms, we'd consider possession ownership. But in this case, His Highness's word was already broken, hence why I could not make his deal. I'm fascinated to learn how much he is worth on the ransom market, or perhaps I'll entertain classic blackmail. Surely King Tauri will be amenable to quite a few things, should his son remain in residence. You can't just keep him, Takaris argues. Why not? Weren't you telling me you wanted to keep that one? Cortland points at me. I did not break my word, Halden growls and grabs hold of the dagger's hilt as the servants put down a covered dish in the center of each side of the table. Looks like we're sharing dessert. I hope you don't mind waiting a moment, Cortland says, and the servants wait, their hands poised on rounded copper covers. My little ones have arrived. He gestures down the aisle, and I inhale a sharp breath. Tern growls, and Andarna perks up, taking notice along the bond. her golden energy intensifying as 3 pure white panthers stalk toward us. I've only ever seen their kind illustrated in books, and never in white. They're graceful and elegant and so very beautiful. And the closer they get, the more I'd like them to stay in the books. Their paws are huge. Wind rustles the trees at my back, and a chill runs the length of my spine. This entire palace is outdoors, and they have the run of it. I have no desire to be their dinner. Aren't they magnificent? Cortland asks, his tone marveling like a proud father. Shira, Shena, and Shora. I've raised them from cubs myself, all hunters, all vicious, all adept at sniffing out a thief. He turns a pointed look Halden's way. My stomach sinks and my heart begins to pound. Pull it out and bandage that hand now, I tell him. Zayden moves to push back from the table. Cortland raises his hand. Do it for him, and any chance of us striking a deal is off. He sets his goblet down. I need to know you can uphold your end of a bargain, even when it's unpleasant to do so, just as your father did. Zayden nods once, his face an unreadable mask, but his leg tenses under my hand. Guess my father wasn't the only one keeping secrets. Now, Halden! I have no problem yelling at the air. The panthers are halfway here. Halden yanks the dagger free with a hiss, then sheathes it like it's his, and quickly binds the wound with his napkin, field dressing it as best he can. Now that that's done, Cortland turns to Zayden. I assume you would like the same deal he asked for? My hand tightens on Zayden's knee. I can't agree, seeing as I have no idea what Halden requested, Zayden says. But we'd like to reopen diplomatic channels and secure permission to use Viscount Takaris's manor as a stopping point for a riot of no more than 8 dragons and an equal number of griffins for the purposes of a search party, which would entail securing hunting rights of wild game for said creatures and a promise of safety for all parties. Cortland rolls the stem of his goblet between his thumb and forefinger. To whom do you owe your loyalty, Your Grace? Your father was a rebel. From what I hear, you are cut from the same cloth. And yet, you've been restored to your title. So, to whom do you swear you're fealty? I reach into the right side pocket of my pack for the conduit out of sheer habit as the panthers approach the dais, splitting to surround us. The familiar weight of the orb is comforting in my hand, and I swear I can feel a hum, a swift rise in heat that I know is only in my head. But it's soothing all the same. Navarre? Cortland continues. Or Tirendor? Lie, and this discussion is over. We've fared quite well without the continent. Zayden tilts his head, studying the king. Violet. My heart skips into double time. My loyalty is to Violet first above everything, everyone else, Zayden says. Then Tirendor, then Navarre in the moments it's worthy, usually when Violet is in residence. It's a reckless answer given what hangs in the balance, and now is absolutely not the time. But damn if it doesn't make me love him even more. Interesting. The king stops twirling his glass. I'm assuming with our deal, trade would begin again, Zayden says, which would be mutually beneficial since I'm sure you've heard we're in a war with the Venin. Should you decide to become our ally, we've never involved ourselves with Venin. Cortland shakes his head. War destroys isles, blocks economies. Supplying those at war, however, that's where the money is. We remain neutral in all things and always have. That's how we've maintained trade, commerce, growth, and knowledge for the world, no matter what god you worship or magic you can access. But they've been here, right? I narrow my eyes slightly, noting that there's now a panther perched directly behind me. I lean forward to look around the servant who is still holding our dish shut. Did you defeat them? Or cure them? Cortland glares. To imply that our isle is weak, conquerable, is a line you do not want to cross. Such an assumption is disastrous to an economy that is built on safe, stable trade. People do not invest in unstable isles. He snaps his fingers. The panthers leap onto the dais with an ease that speaks to nightly routine. I will not stand for you being devoured by a house cat, Taryn growls. Stay put and keep Sigale with you. I shout down the bond, and my knuckles whiten around the conduit as the panther pushes between Zayden and me, its soft coat brushing against my arm. Shora's lovely, don't you think? Cortland says to Zayden, an indulgent smile curving his mouth, then continues toward Halden without waiting for an answer. I hope you don't mind, but they're used to eating with me. Your Highness, do remember that Shira earned every bit of her special dinner today. He lifts his hands, palms up, and crooks his fingers. The servants remove the copper covers, then duck off the dais. Oh, gods, it's a giant slab of red meat that has to have been carved off the largest cow to have walked this aisle. The panther, Shira, chuffs low in her throat, flicking her tail. And I can't help but wonder if this is how the infantry cadets felt that day on the field when Bade found us. Zayden's hand covers mine and squeezes, and I look over to find him staring stone-faced across the table, then track his gaze. Captain Anna Windshire's head lies on the plate between Halden and Takaris, her short strawberry blonde curls unmistakable. My jaw slackens. Oh, Malik. Cortland has killed Halden's personal guard and is serving her to his cat. I'm gonna be sick. Bile rises in my throat and I swallow quickly, breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth. But all I smell is meat and blood. Don't watch, Zayden whispers, and I wrench my gaze away. Eat, Cortland orders, and the panthers pounce. Paws land on the table between us, and a massive maw opens, snatching the meat off the plate and dragging it, leaving a bloody trail on the white linen as she hauls her meal to the dais, then to the floor. The others follow suit. When I look across at Halden, he stares at his empty plate, completely stricken. Aren't they beautiful creatures? Cortland asks. I blink away the shock and set the conduit on the table. Death and I are old friends, and it's not like I really knew Anna, but the audacity is truly unparalleled. You murdered my guard, Halden says slowly. Your thief was found in my treasury, Cortland counters, with 6 stolen treasures on her person, and a list of 5 more she had yet to attain written in your handwriting. My stomach lurches and my gaze jumps to Halden's. You didn't! They are all items that belong to us! He pounds his chest and stands, his chair falling back against the dais. It is not stealing to take back what is rightfully ours. A vein in his neck bulges. Guards move in toward the edge of the dais, forming a perimeter around the panthers, and I slip my hand from beneath Zayden's and reach for the sheaths at my lower thighs beneath the tablecloth. It's about to turn to shit, I warn Taryn. Communicate that to Sigale however you can. He rumbles in acknowledgement, and palm trees sway in the distance. Rightfully yours? Cortland challenges, his voice rising in a sinister melody. What's the penalty for thievery here? Zayden whispers. From a royal house? I focus inward. Degree 22, I wince. No, 23 is death. I've studied, but I'm nowhere near a legal expert. Is Halden complicit under their laws? Their system isn't like ours. Their decrees can contradict each other, and Cortland sits on their tribunals, so my words trip over themselves. I don't know, maybe? I might want to strangle Halden myself, but I can't let him be executed here for stealing. Those items are mine, received as goods bartered for services rendered over the last century, as you well know, Cortland shouts, and the diners fall silent at their tables, leaving only the sound of the panthers devouring their dinners. Wait, the last century? My shoulders fall and my mind whirls, recalling Auric's words from last year when I asked what Halden was going to do about what was happening beyond our borders. I'm here, aren't I? Auric had implied that Halden wasn't going to act. But this is so much worse. Halden didn't just know. He's been playing a starring role. You took advantage of our desperation, Halden accuses, accepted priceless magical artifacts under unfair terms, and now you execute my personal guard when we seek to rectify your outright theft with a genuine agreement? Fuck you! We want no part of you, your deception, or this God's forsaken isle. Halden surges forward, shoving his section of the table over, and it topples into the void of the center. Oh, shit. Cortland's gaze turns to ice, and my ribs feel like they're twisting inward as I watch everything we've worked for fall apart in a matter of seconds. Takaris jumps backward, then quickly scrambles down the steps, and I don't blame him in the least. Halden has fucked us over. The sour taste of betrayal fills my mouth, but a bitter flood of metallic anger carries it away with the next heartbeat. Enough, Halden! Zayden stands and I slowly do the same, monitoring the guards around us, the Panthers behind us, and those in the crowd reaching beneath the linens for what could be hidden weapons. He is a thief, and he impugns my honor in front of my entire court, Cortland shouts at Zayden, but he points his finger toward Halden. He no longer speaks for us. Zayden swings the pack from his shoulder, setting it atop the table with a clang. If you will not accept the deal with Navarre, then accept it with Tyrandor. And I'll assure you the only riots on your shore will have Aratian riders and their flyer counterparts who will abide by your laws and respect your customs. And in return, with my utmost gratitude for your trust, he unbuttons the top flap of his rucksack and pulls it back slowly, revealing an inch of an emerald-studded hilt that steals my breath. It looks too much like the dagger to be a coincidence. My heart stutters. That can't be. He can't. I won't let him. No! I grab hold of Zayden's hand, preventing him from showing the rest of it. If that's what I think it is, then absolutely not. Vi. He shakes his head, searching my eyes. And I know I'm not the only one longing for the bond that usually makes these moments easy for us. It might be the only way to forge an alliance and save the prick. You've sacrificed enough. I've got this. I slip my heavy pack from my shoulders and set it beside his. Absolutely not, Halden shouts. Zayden gives him a look that clearly says he's had enough of his shit. I alone have the authority to speak for Navarre, Halden rages, taking 2 threatening steps toward the king. You do not make deals with provinces, let alone the son of a traitor who blackmailed his way into a title. I am the only voice of our kingdom. His hands curl into fists, and the binding around his right floods crimson. Cortland sighs, then reaches for his goblet and takes a drink. I've heard enough, and this grows tedious. Takaris may live. Kill the rest.
Kill
An
the rest?
excerpt from Journal of Captain Lilith Sorengale.
What? Oh my, I'm sorry, Doug.
Sometimes diplomacy is best served at sword point.
Oh my God.
Chapter 27. Guards move in, and everything goes to complete, immediate shit. Zayden draws both his swords, then surprises the hell out of me by tossing one across the gap to Halden, who catches it with his left hand in the same breath that I palm 2 of my daggers. We are not dying tonight. Try not to kill anyone, Zayden says, even as the first of the guards charges up the steps between the Panthers. International relations and all. Tell her that! I glance down at the Panther, thankful she's still occupied. Do not overreact, I warn Tairn, hoping it's not my final request. We still need this deal. I resent the implication that I am given to melodramatics, he replies, but there's a distinct plate-rattling roar to my left that causes more than a few guests to shriek, as Zayden clashes blades with the guard, then kicks him clean off the stairs with a boot to the center of his chest. I whirl to the left as a guard climbs the end of the dais without stairs, and pull a move from Cortland's own book, thrusting my dagger through her hand and yanking it out. She shouts, falling backward, and when I rise, I find 2 more guards have managed the same maneuver behind us, filling the space between Zayden and me. Bone crunches and a body flies around the guards, but there's easily a half dozen more waiting beyond the Panthers. The closest guard has at least a foot on me and 50 pounds. And if the scars on his forearms are any measure, he's no stranger to fighting. But he's no Zayden. I charge before he can take a fighting stance and let muscle memory take over. My first cut landing deep in the outside of his thigh, before I duck close, avoiding the swing of his long spear. They aren't made for close combat, and I am. He misses, thrusting the spear into the table, shattering glass, and giving me the time to regretfully slice the tendons behind his knee. It's a long-lasting injury for a warrior, but at least it won't kill him. He bellows, toppling sideways and falling from the dais, but before I can get up, pain explodes at the back of my head, and I...
Put out another book with it.
Upward by my God's damned braid. A battering ram of an arm shoves my chest onto the bloodied plate between our packs, and my face narrowly misses a sharp shard of glass. The spear shattered my conduit. Do your dragons scream before they die, Firebringer? The guard hisses in my ear as she leans over my back. Does it take them minutes to perish after you do, or is it instant? Anger storms through my veins, heating my skin from the scalp down in a flood of smelted rage. Your ignorance is staggering. Gods bless my flexibility. I swing my left arm behind my back and stab deep into her arm. She shouts, jerking upright, and I shove the heel of my hand against the table and throw every ounce of my energy into...
I paused it, Megan, so you don't hear what's happening since you're not there yet. Are you still here? This is so funny. Okay, I'm glad the audio is working. That's good, at least. Thank you. I'm going to turn it back on, though, so you might want to leave. So you don't have any spoilers. There we go. Get out of here, Megan. Get out. Get out.
Jolting backward, slamming my head into her face. Bone crunches and her weight disappears. I turn only to meet the stunning blow of an elbow against my cheekbone. Skin splits, my ears ring, and I fall back against the table, blinking the stars out of my eyes as a hand grabs hold of my throat and squeezes. Violet! Xaden yells, and I slash my blade across the offending arm and thrust my knee in a move even Mira would be proud of. The man falls, and I cough for my first breath as the dais shudders. I lift my blade toward the giant on my right, but the pommel of a sword reaches his temple first. The man collapses and Xaden shoves him off the platform with his foot. That is enough, Taryn declares. She holds her own, Andarna argues. Oh, perhaps there are now too many. Stop playing and end this. It's the only way to kill their mounts, Cortland shouts from behind us. Xaden reaches for my face with his empty hand, cupping my chin and turning my cheek toward the blue light as a dozen more guards pour in from behind Cortland. I take a precious second to make sure Halden's still alive. He's on the ground, chest moving, eyes closed. I think he might be unconscious, but I don't see any blood. Xaden, behind us, I warn as he studies the wound that has begun to throb. When he doesn't answer, my gaze jumps to his, and my breath falters. I've seen him in battle before, seen the icy rage that comes over him, even the killing calm. I've witnessed the transformation from man to weapon, watched strategy overtake compassion, just like we're trained for. But this, whatever's swirling in those onyx eyes, is a tempest I've never beheld. It's one step past fury, as though Dune herself has stepped into his eyes and now peers back at me. He's Xaden, but he's not. Xaden, I whisper. It's nothing really. I've had worse on a sparring mat. They're all fucking dead. His vow lifts the hair at the back of my neck, and the guards rush the table simultaneously with their weapons drawn, obviously having learned from the last failed assault. 2 on 12. Shit. I startle and pull back to fight, but Xaden whips his arm around my waist and yanks me against his chest. His sword hits the table, and to my complete and utter surprise, he presses a soft kiss to the top of my forehead as an axe. Metal hits the ground. Screams sound around us, and I jerk my head left, finding Xaden's outstretched hand mid-twist. The unmistakable sound of cracking bone follows, and every guard surrounding us drops to the floor, their heads twisted at unnatural angles. Wisps of barely there shadow dissipate, and the band around my waist falls away with a familiar caress. No. No, no. Silence falls, thicker than the cloying, humid air, and my heart cries, demanding some other answer than the one my brain already knows, because there's only one logical explanation for what just happened. But even that can't be possible because there's no magic here. Tarn bristles along the bond, and Andarna shudders. I can feel them both, closer than they should be. But there's still no bond to Xaden. You, Cortland stammers. What have you done? I drag my gaze along the wall of rustling palms to the left, over the scattered dead Deverelli guards and the panthers that happily investigate them. Hand across Xaden's chest, finding nothing but the same on the other side of the table. He's killed all dozen of them. It's only muscle memory that sheathes my daggers. Something falls from his hand, hitting his abandoned sword with a metallic clink. I grab the small object on impulse and close my fingers around the pebble-sized piece of alloy from my conduit. Agony cracks my soul clean open, as if I can give Xaden some of what he's just lost as I register the alloy's chill, its complete and total lack of energy before shoving it in my front pocket. They hurt you, he whispers without apology. They were going to kill you. The why of it doesn't matter. Not right now. Not when we're surrounded on an enemy isle, escorted by riders who don't know what Zayden's become, and facing down Navarian royalty who would gladly see him dead. Why is a matter for later. Violet. The plea in his whisper pulls me together faster than anything else could, and I jerk my head up. His eyes are tightly closed as he rubs the bridge of his nose. Come here, I say quietly, rising on my toes and cupping the side of his face, lifting my hands to his temples to shield him from view. Cortland's chair squeaks on the dais. Look at me. Zayden's eyes flash open. Red rims his irises and consumes the gold flecks I adore so very much.
No!
But he's still him behind these eyes.
No!
I force my body not to react, then pull his forehead to mine. I love you, and we need to get you out of here. So you have to trust me. Do not move until I tell you. He nods. Sit down. Put your head in your hands and stay there. I let him go, and he does exactly as I ask, keeping his head low as if he's ashamed of what he's done. I need help, I tell Taryn and Andarna. We're ready, Taryn replies. Thank gods they're always in my head. Andarna, when it's time, be gentle. For once, I don't even want to lecture her about not staying home when she's told, though she'd better have her harness on if this doesn't go as planned. Is your lightning gentle? Do I critique your work? She huffs. Cortland still stands behind the table, one of the panthers at his side, panic etched in every line of his face as the court mutters in muted tones of hysteria behind us. I need you to get Sigale as close as possible, I tell Taryn, then offer what I hope is a contrite smile Cortland's way. Our most sincere apology. But in Navarre, riders are trained to kill when you attack us, and our restraint can only be pushed so far. As you can see, the Duke feels some remorse. But you did just try to murder 2 of our kingdom's nobles. I cringe. Not a good look for negotiations. Shall we begin round 2? I'll lead this time. We have no magic. Cortland's eyes widen, and his gaze darts over the room as if he's deciding whether or not to call for more guards. Watch your words, Taryn warns. Sigale is here. It's getting cramped behind these trees. And yet, here we are. Did you know that I'm a lightning wielder? I cock my head to the side. Cortland swallows. Takaris mentioned something along those lines. What happened? Halden sits up with perfect timing, rubbing a growing lump on his head. Cortland's chest rises and falls more rapidly with every second, and I watch the panic build within him like a breaking dam ready to burst. I drop my right hand to my sheaths and wait for him to explode. Shira! He bellows, snapping faster than I expected. Violet! Halden shouts, and Zayden's back turns to stone beneath my hand. But true to his word, he doesn't move a muscle. Neither do I. No! Cortland shrieks, his eyes locking behind me in horror. His mouth falls agape, and the group of Deborelli erupts into full-blown, multi-toned cries of distress. You stay put, and she lives. I warn him as people run for their lives, emptying out the hall. Well, holy shit, Halden says with lifted eyebrows, wobbling as he stands. I look over my shoulder, and a slow, proud smile spreads across my face. Andarna stands with her front claws atop the bodies of the guards, her wings tucked in tight, her black tail flicking back and forth as she holds Shira delicately between her front 4 teeth, the snarling cat's claws safely tucked outside so she can't cause any damage. Andarna even has her lips puckered so the little cat doesn't get drenched in dragon saliva. How thoughtful. Shira, Cortland cries. You see? That's my little one. I pivot toward Cortland with a grin, wrinkling my nose. Raised her from a juvenile. Well, Taryn and Sigale have, really, but you get the point. Now, Andarna doesn't eat our allies. It's a whole thing her elders are trying to teach her, but you know how adolescents are. Never really know if they feel like listening on any given day. I shrug. So, we can negotiate, and I will give you the rarest treasure found anywhere on this world. And Shira will walk away in need of a good bath. Or I can call Taryn and Sigale in here, and they can all have little panther snacks before we fly back to the continent. Your choice. But either way, you should know that dragons outlive their riders. So, had you succeeded in killing us, all you would have done was really piss them off before they scorched everything in their paths, and flew back to tell the rest of the Empyrean what you'd done. I'm willing to let the Duke of Tyrandor depart in good faith that you won't try to attack us again if you're ready to begin. Cortland's face falls, and for the first time since we walked in, he actually looks his age as he glances at Xaden. Agreed. My king, someone yells from behind me. It's fine, Berset, Cortland calls back. My trade minister will stay for negotiations, along with finance and, he looks their way, foreign. As it should be, I nod, then hold out my hand to Halden. Bring me both of his weapons. Halden's head draws back in offense. Now, I add, just in case he thinks I'm kidding. Way to fuck up the negotiations, Ryerson. He glares and tosses them over. The steel lands on the table with a clatter, and I make quick work of sheathing Xaden's swords at his back and packaging the dagger in his bag with the sword of Tyrandor. All ready. I tap Xaden's back and he stands, turning away from Cortland and Halden before swinging his pack over his shoulder. He keeps his head low, but opens his eyes to look at me. I'm not sorry, but I am. I love you. I cup the sides of his face and choose my words carefully. Sigale is just behind the trees. Take the heirlooms back to Eratia and handle whatever business you might have there for the province. My throat tightens as I hold his gaze, beating back the physical instinct to fight or flee at the glimpse of red. I rise up quickly and press a hard, quick kiss to his mouth. I'll see you at Basgaeth in a week. A week, he promises, and then he goes, hanging his head as he descends the dais, then lifting it when he passes Andarna and striding through the trees like the arrogant ass he is. I pivot back to Cortland, noting that his 3 ministers are picking their way toward us. The king's gaze narrows on me in a glare that's equal parts hatred and appreciation. Are you nervous now that your reckless one has departed? I clear my throat, and the ground shakes as Terran steps over the trees, lowering his head so that the table linen moves with his breath. No, not particularly. Dragons are known to have short tempers, and Andarna's jaw is probably getting a little tired. So we should speed this along, don't you think? Cortland nods. Same terms as the Duke stated while I sat beside him earlier this evening. And I will add that Xaden Ryerson is to be pardoned of any crime you would accuse him of regarding tonight's activities, considering he was provoked and attacked by your guards. And he is to be allowed to return to Deverelli as a member of our riot at any time. I flash a smile. Cortland blusters, and his ministers call out protests as they make their way toward the dais. Or we can go home, and I can ask King Tari how he feels about tonight's actions and go from there. I shrug. Accepted, Cortland bites out. Excellent. Now, I expect you will accept the citrine as payment for the alliance, but agree you should be compensated for the prince's crimes. I unclasp the top of my pack and remove the hard metallic shards of shell I've carried all the way from the continent. The smallest pieces cover my palm, and the largest section would easily fit a medium-sized dog. I set the base on the table and its pieces inside, marveling at how the shades of color graduate from the darkest onyx on bottom to the brightest silvers on top, each ring of hardened scales nestled within the next, yet never separate, creating a smooth outer layer with no ridges that only cracks when the hatchling is ready. A dragon eggshell, Cortland drags out the words less than impressed. As amazing as your beasts are, once you've seen one shell, you've seen them all. Not this one. A corner of my mouth lifts, and I run my finger along the inner edge, picturing her biding her time for hundreds of years, listening, waiting. A charge of energy runs up my arm, and I lift my brows at the sensation. This is the only shell of its kind. It belongs to the one and only Irid we have on the continent, the 7th breed of dragon. It is Andarna's kind we're searching for. You expect me to believe? Cortland starts, then stands completely awestruck, staring at Andarna. I glance back and see she's chosen to blend with the vegetation, so it appears Shira is hanging in midair, suspended by an unknown pointed vice. Yes. And this is her shell. Cortland leans closer. It is. She gave me permission to gift it to you. I push the heavy structure toward him. I'm starting to drool, she warns me. Just a little longer. You're doing great. Cortland nods, inspecting the shell. Yes. His head pops up. One condition. He, his finger swings toward Halden, never steps foot on my isle again, or his life is forfeit. Done. Violet, Halden argues. Done, I repeat to Cortland. Then the deal is struck. Cortland bows his head. The deal is struck. I bow mine, and Andarna spits Shira out. The panther bolts past us, taking her sisters with her. You will begin at Unreal, will you not? It is the closest main isle, after all. Cortland waits for me to nod, then eyes Andarna's shell before stepping around the table toward me. If you are amenable, there is another trade I might be able to broker for you. I'm listening. An excerpt from Unreal, Isle of Dune, by 2nd Lieutenant Asher Daxton. There are times I look at Parapet, at the very act of threshing, and marvel that dragons have not been to Unreal. What we call treacherous is their idea of primary school. Chapter 28. You can't be serious, Ree whispers next to me 3 days later in battle brief, as Professor De Vera questions first years about the fall of Valia, a mid-sized city 200 miles west of the Bay of Malak. Not only are the Venin moving in Krovla again, but in the 8 days we were gone, Signison's flyer cadets arrived. Battle brief is now beyond standing room only capacity. Even the steps serve as seating. She's absolutely serious, Riddick responds from Ree's other side, cracking a giant yawn that I immediately catch and repeat, fighting and failing to stifle it with my hand. God damn, am I tired. Every muscle aches. My stomach can't decide if it wants to eat everything or expel it all. And I'm starting to see double when I try to focus on the map. We flew in this morning from Athbean, and were rewarded for pushing our limits by being sent straight into battle brief on General Atos's order. At least I managed to secure my father's books in my room and heard from Imogen that she'd kept my prisoner alive first. He wanted you to trade your and Zayden's services for weaponry? Sawyer asks, leaning forward from Riddick's right and adjusting the top of his prosthesis. I thought Deverelli was neutral. They don't even have an army. Zayden. My hand clenches around my pen as I scribble the nearly mid-February date on my notes. How many more times can he slip before the rings around his irises become permanent and the veins at his temples turn red? For a second in that bedroom, I thought I'd found a temporary answer to stay his progression. But even on an isle without magic, he hadn't been safe. Or perhaps the isle hadn't been safe from him, Taryn interjects. I ignore the jab. Could you keep it down? A brown-haired flyer with a Signison shoulder patch and third-year rank turns around and glares at Sawyer. And though I hate his scowl, I have to admit, the glasses really work for him. Turn it back around, Riddick starts, then pauses to appreciate the flyer. Well, hello, Signison. Have you been properly welcomed to Basgaeth yet? He cranks up a smile I've seen enough times to know he'll be coming out of someone else's bedroom tomorrow morning. The flyer scoffs. I don't do second years. Good thing I fuck like a third, Riddick grins. Plus, I'm on Quest Squad, which gives me an additional boost of desirability. That earns him a second glance and a flash of interest before the flyer turns around in his seat.
Oh, Riddick.
Where do you get the confidence, Gamlin? Marin asks from my left. Riddick snorts. Survive the gauntlet? After that, you're well aware one rejection isn't going to kill you. He leans toward the flyer. By the way, third years usually sit up top, but if you want to be close to me, that's all right too. The flyer tilts his head and drums his pen on the desk. I smother a laugh, and Sawyer shakes his head. Tell Sawyer about the Deverelli army, Riddick reminds me, settling back in his seat as a first year fumbles an easy question about high ground strategy. Oh, right. I yawn again and open the archive's door to a crackle of power in hopes it will keep me from falling asleep. Have to admit, it's nice to be me again. They have one. They just call them guards. So yes, they have weaponry to trade. They just don't advertise it. Wanting you as a weapon is weird. They don't have magic, Kat says from Marin's left. You're scary with lightning, Sorengale, but without it? We all look her way, but she just shrugs. What? You were all thinking it, I just said it. Is there something more important than enemy troop movements going on up there, Iron Squad second years? Devera asks, and the lecture hall quiets. Heat creeps up my neck, and I sink in my seat. I mean, Riddick scratches the side of his head. Sorngill's kind of responsible for saving the entire continent right now, so maybe... Ree's hand slams over his mouth. Absolutely not. You have our apology, Major. Devera arches a sardonic brow and leans back against the desk. And how was your trip to Deverelli, Cadet? Have you saved us all? Leather jackets creak in every direction as heads turn my way. I clear my throat. I believe the Prince is debriefing leadership, but we've brokered a deal that will allow us diplomatic access to the Isles as a launching ground for further searches. And I personally secured Cortland's silence on what Xaden did by promising my own like a sacrifice, adding a gentle reminder that I wouldn't want our new ally to appear weak. Is that all we should discuss? She asks, her expression uncomfortably close to my mother's, and I nod. Of all the shops in the Merchant Isle, she made us visit the bookstore, Kat adds with an exasperated sigh, tapping her pen on her notebook, and I breathe a little easier with the transfer of attention. That sounds like our Violet, Devera flashes a smile. Since you're so talkative today, Sorengale, why don't you tell us what about the offensive in Valia is so concerning? She gestures behind her at the map. Shit. I really should have been paying attention. I scan the map for the length of 2 heartbeats, noting that some flags that had once been red are now gray. And the red has retreated from the north of Breivik, and on the whole is moving nauseatingly southwest. It shows southward movement, I answer. Once we raised the wards in Eurasia, the Venin changed course, leaving conquered territory like Pavis to concentrate on Borromeal's border with Navarre, in what we now know was an offensive meant to strike the Basgayat hatching ground.
You go upstairs? Let's go upstairs. Come on. I've had the dog. I have the dog. She's been laying in my office. On her bed. I got her. She came down.
Moving southwest shows a change in strategy. They're less than a day's flight from Corden by Wyvern. But there's a lot of undrained ground to cover if feeding is their only goal. But if that were the case, the map wouldn't look quite so premeditated. Your best guess on that strategy? My stomach turns. They somehow know about the Eurasian wards, and they're moving into position for the inevitability of them falling. A murmur ripples through the room. Devera nods. That's what I think, too. My blood runs cold. But how? The next week passes in a blur. I've never had to work harder or worried about Zayden quite so much. He should be back by now. The Scenarium expects us to leave in a week for Umbriel, and I'm getting nervous. 8 days should be enough for the circles around his eyes to fade. Right? Yes. Unless he's progressed to ASIM. I shove that thought as far away as possible. When I'm not learning in class, pushing burnout in the range, freezing my ass off in flight maneuvers, practicing with the mini crossbow Marin gifted me, working every muscle to its breaking point with Imogen, or listening to Andarna go into exhaustive detail on why Taryn is the worst, period, mentor, period, ever, period. I'm reading my dad's books with whichever members of my squad can spare their time. It takes Dane and me 2 evenings to decode the clues Dad left to open the passcode-locked books. And once we do, I can't even tell my sister, since she's taken personal leave for the first time in her entire career. And whenever I'm not doing any of that, I'm in a fighting pit with my squad, either for our own instruction or joining the rest of the quadrant in what's quickly become our favorite activity, watching the shit get kicked out of one another in hopes of learning something. This afternoon, every second and third year in our squad is seated on the bottom left rows of the amphitheater with a book from Jacinia in their lap, while 2 other squads from 2nd and 4th Wing practice in front of us under the guidance of Professor Carr, who's rotated in to teach today. Garrick and Bodhi look on from just beneath us, leaning against the wall, both shaking their heads every now and then when they, too, look up from their books. A second year goes flying in a blast of fire, and every single one of us looks up as the guy lands on his ass, flames still rising from his hair. You're up, Bodhi jabs Garrick, and he takes off at a sprint onto the mat. A flick of his wrist and the flames snuff out, deprived of oxygen. Letting them get a little close, don't you think? Garrick asks Professor Carr. Oh, this is gonna get good. Riddick sets the continent's most redacted volume on Umbriel's warlike customs in his lap, and Sawyer follows suit beside him. Sawyer hasn't joined us in flight maneuvers, but I'm glad he's feeling up to sitting in on classes. It bodes well for his return, if and when he's ready, or even just ready to talk about it. Ballsy, Rhea agrees from my other side, using her thumb to mark her place in a book about weather patterns throughout the Isles. Professor Carr narrows his eyes on Garrick and folds his arms. A scar would remind him to wield a little faster next time. It's not like he's dead. Flame never should have touched him, Garrick argues. Clearly, you haven't taught enough to know the best methodology, Carr snipes. Having powerful friends doesn't make you a good instructor. Garrick's jaw ticks as he steps off the mat with the smoking second year, and the guy goes back to his squad. He's an asshole, Bodhi notes, then leans back against the wall and returns to reading his assigned collection of early fables from Breivik. He's looking for tales of dark wielders cured by love, or good deeds, or dancing naked under a full moon after drinking the venom of a rare snake only found on the farthest isle during a lunar eclipse. Or something. Anything. I adjust the blank leather cover disguising Dad's book and reread the passage on trial by combat for different levels of entrance to Umbriel's court. Then, roll my left shoulder with a wince. Pushing into my stiff trapezius muscle doesn't help soothe the protesting joint either. You were too hard on her last night, Garrick rumbles at Imogen, grabbing his book from Bodhi. For all that we're reading, I can't begin to contemplate what's on Jacinia's desk. Fuck off, Imogen mutters behind me, flipping a page aggressively. I'm fine. I spare a glance at both of them, then continue down the page. My father's observations on the combative Isle are sharp, almost clinical, but lack his usual insight. There's a marked difference between this book, written when he was 23 and straight out of the scribe quadrant, and the manuscript he left for me in his office. But when did he visit the Isles? Or have the time to transcribe the rudimentary dictionaries that have quickly become the bane of Dane's existence? She's rotated every single one of her joints at least 3 times in the last hour. Garrick's tone sharpens. I'd say that means you need to lighten up. Nope. Imogen flips another page. You're not taking your frustrations with Carr out on me. If Violet thinks we're
That's
doing
right.
too
Tell
much,
him, Imogen.
she'll tell me. I glance over my shoulder to see her twirling her forefinger, suggesting Garrick turn back around, while Quinn leans over her shoulder reading a volume Queen Mariah sent on venin and their medicinal uses. Given how difficult it was to get our hands on these books, it's wild to think that Garrick could probably walk straight from here to wherever her library is. I blink, then lean forward, bracing my elbows on the wall right above Bodhi's head. Hey, Bodhi, I whisper so only the two of us can hear. Bodhi. Hey, Violet, he answers, looking up. What's your second signet? I lower my voice even more. He lifts his brows, then glances in Garrick's direction. Don't have one. As in,
Liar.
You don't have one that I get to know about but will eventually see you wield, or don't have one. A corner of his mouth lifts into a wry smile that reminds me of his cousins. Don't have one. Just like Xaden. Why? Curious, I admit, and selfishly hoping you'd be able to do something cool like keep Halden from speaking. Gods only know what he'll do at the other Isles after his performance on Deverelli. If I could, would that mean I get to go on the next expedition? His eyes light up. Heads up, Garrick says, and we both look forward as a first year with a rebellion relic steps into the pit with Timon Kagaso, the newly promoted wing leader for Second Wing. Let's try to keep anyone else from burning. Go figure, another fire wielder was Second Wing's executive officer when Aura died. On it. Bodhi sets his book on the wall and takes a step closer to the mat near the end of the squad. Still can't believe they made Sterling the senior wing leader, Sawyer mutters, glancing up the roads to where Panchek watches with other members of leadership. Better than Iris Drew, Kat notes as she works out a knot in Traeger's shoulders. Pretty sure she'd murder every flyer in their bed if she could. True, Sawyer agrees, his attention shifting up the steps. I thought you all had physics right now. Rhea and I both follow his line of sight as Lynx, Baylor, Evelyn, Sloane, Arik, and Kai descend the steps on our right. The first years are here. Got out 10 minutes ago, Sloane replies, her gaze darting over us, or rather, our books. We came to help. Excellent, Rhea jabs her thumb over her shoulders. Empty rows behind the third years. Take a seat and watch. That's not what I mean. Sloane crosses her arms and lifts her chin in a way that reminds me of her older brother. You're in charge of your mission now, right? Yes, my stomach sinks. We want to help, she gestures to the books. Riddick shakes his head. First year is hard enough without adding all this into it. I'm with him. You're one dragon short of even pairs, Evelyn says, complete.
Okay. I know. All right. That's it for today, y'all. See you later.